water barrel principle. Now, there's an offsetting principle in this list that we'll get to later that addresses the other side of the issue. And in many ways, that's the truth about leadership principles, that it's more of an art form than a science, that knowing when to apply which principle is a significant percentage of the capacity to lead others well or to lead an organization. And so the water barrel principle very simply implies that the way to raise the level of water in the barrel is not to improve on the height overall of the barrel, but to plug the lowest leak. And so very simply you can envision that it's a common sense statement that is self-evident, that if you have a water barrel and you're trying to hold water in it, that if you want to raise the level of water, you plug the lowest leak. You can spend a lot of time, effort, and energy plugging holes that are higher up, but if you haven't plugged that lowest leak, you're not going to get any increase of capacity. And so you'll have to pour a whole lot of energy into it to get it to temporarily be above that level. If you can overflow the amount coming in versus the amount going out, you can raise the level. But it takes far more energy input than just to plug that lowest hole so that the water level can come up naturally. To some degree, as you apply this to, in my realm anyway, the realm of the local church, you can do this as far as what is the weakest area of the church? What is it that is causing the people to leave? What is the exit reason? And in my neck of the woods, in many ways, the single biggest reason people leave is because we are what's called a feeder. So if you're familiar with church governance, there's something called the feeder receiver model. And that means that there are churches in smaller communities, and that as their children are raised in Christ and then they graduate from high school, they leave. They graduate high school, they go away to some college, and then they get a job, usually within the immediate area or within a 50 to 100 mile radius of that college. That happens all the time. And so that's where you tend to see a lot of growth in the last 50, 60 years, is as this model of transmigration occurs from small towns to large cities or municipalities or metropolises even. Would that be metropoli? Metropolises. You tend to get this feeder receiver model where small churches raise them up and then they go someplace else and get connected to a church in a suburban area surrounding a major employment hub. And so that certainly does happen. And so in our areas, that's a reality. And in some ways, you'd have to try to figure out if economics is something that your church can actually make a difference in or not in the community. If not, what's the next hole up? What's the next lowest leak? What can you actually do? And so you could do a survey of your people. Natural church development kind of is the process that goes into this in an official rigorous way, but you can just do a quick mental compass of your ministry if you know it well and say, we do a great job at greeting people. People love the church when they first come. They make great friends, but after 6 to 8 months, they start fading away and they've never really connected. And you say, well, then connections is that lowest level leak. And so if we can get people connected in the first 6 to 10 weeks, will greatly increase our ability to maintain people in the connection of the church. So find that lowest level leak in your organization, whatever it may be. A belligerent greeter, for instance, might be one. Poor quality in any area of the ministry. So like if your nursery is not perceived as being safe, you're going to lose people after the first time they visit. Nobody's going to bring their child back if they don't feel safe leaving their kid in the nursery. So there's all those sorts of things. But do a mental compass, or maybe ask your key leaders in the church. They'll be hesitant to mention their own or another ministry if it's done publicly. But maybe in private conversation, find out what that lowest level leak in your organization is so you can address it, plug it, or at least diminish the leak so that your organization can grow. Water barrel principle. Plug the lowest leak.